And so over the next couple weeks, we're going to explore different aspects of mental health. And so it's kind of going to be at times a little somber, a little excited, and we're just going to have fun while we do it. But here's the thing I want you to understand about mental health. Mental health is not about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. In fact, I've had bootstraps and mine broke. And so I tried to pull them up a few too many times. And toward the end of this series, I'm going to get really personal and share some really raw things that I experienced. And so make sure you attend every single Sunday. You're not going to want to miss any part of this series. I'm telling you, it's going to help you, whether you have struggled with mental health, do struggle with mental health, or have never struggled with mental health. My goal is that these messages in this series actually help you. One of the sad things to say is that really in the church, mental health hasn't been a real popular topic historically. It has here recently gotten a little more attention, which is a good thing. And so I think we need to talk about mental health in the church. I think we need to talk about a lot of things in the church, and this is just one of many. But to be clear, when I say mental health, I want to make sure that I am abundantly clear by what I mean. I'm not talking about someone that's just lazy. That's different. And if you are a lazy person and you blame it on mental health, shame on you, because you are making it harder for the people that actually do struggle with mental health to be taken serious. So shame on you if you're lazy. I don't feel bad about saying that. I don't. I should probably feel a little bad, but I don't, because I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning, and so I'm wide awake and full of caffeine, as you could probably tell. But when I say mental health, I'm talking about people that have legitimate mental health issues, okay? That's what I'm talking about, and I wanted to be abundantly clear. The other thing I want to make very clear to you is I am not a psychologist, and I am not a psychiatrist. And so I am not a professional when it comes to mental health. A lot of people want to treat pastors as professionals. We are not professionals in the mental health department. It's truly not really a responsibility of the pastor to deal with mental health issues, and I'll explain what I mean by that, because some of y'all are like, wait, what? And here's the thing. A lot of pastors want to be experts in the field of mental health, and they're not. And so let me just make this clear. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. And if you come to me for counseling, you will find out I'm not a great counselor. Like, it's not because I don't love you. It's just because I'm mean or something. I don't know. Like, it's fantastic, though. I love counseling. I love talking to people, and I love helping people. Turns out I'm not a great counselor. I had to get okay with that. And here's why I got okay with that. As a pastor, I know my wife is throwing hand signals at me, and I don't know what they mean, y'all. She's like, if anyone knows what this means, I mean, am I throwing a strike? Am I stealing a base? Like, I don't know what's happening. In fact, it's interesting to me of how we treat mental health. Here's the thing. If any of you have gained the quarantine 15, say I wore black today because I knew black would be slimming, but I actually did. It's sad. I admitted that. Anyway, if any of you came to me and said, hey, Keith, I want to lose 20 pounds over the next 6 months, and I want a nutrition plan to make sure that all of my cholesterol and all of my health markers show up great. I could help you with a few things, like, hey, don't eat fried chicken. It's about as good as you're going to get from me, right? Exercise, do some walking, start small. I could give you some pointers, but guess what I'm not? I am not a fitness coach nor a nutritionist. And you wouldn't come to me to receive that kind of advice unless I was like all jacked up and ripped, which I am not. That would have been a really good point for everyone to just be quiet. But it's also interesting to me, if you had a leaking heart valve, you wouldn't come to me and say, hey, Keith, listen, I got this leaking heart valve. You think you could do surgery on the stage after church? Right? You're not going to come to me for that because you know I'm not gifted to do that. And so let me just say that if you struggle with mental health, we are here to help you. We are here to stand by you. We are here to be a source of encouragement and strength for you. But it's also important that you see the right people that are gifted to help you. That's really, really important. And we will help you get that done. And I will walk with you. But I am not necessarily the best person. And so I do a lot of referring out. I like to send people to professionals that I believe God has gifted in specific areas to really help people. And so just wanted to throw that at you. And so as a church at the Grove, what is our responsibility toward people that struggle with mental health issues? It's really, really pretty simple. It's to love. Jesus said that if you do everything else right and don't love, you're not doing anything right. Right? That's 1 Corinthians 13. If you don't have love, you have nothing. Right? And so number one, we have to love. We have to love. Number two, we have to support. One of the greatest tragedies in any situation, especially mental health, is when there's an absence of support. Because mental illness needs support, right? Have you ever journeyed with someone going through a health crisis and provided support for them? Mental health is the same thing. It's incredibly important. We should encourage and to the best extent possible equip one another to be a support network for people that struggle with mental health issues. Now, the fact of the matter is this. We have all been treated very differently by different churches. Reality, right? That's simply the facts. Every church treats every person a little different. And for some reason, people that struggle with mental health issues have been treated very differently by the church. Now, let me just say, if you have mental health issues, if you struggle with mental illness, and churches have treated you poorly, on behalf of churches, would you please accept my apology? I am sorry for what has happened. I am sorry for what has happened. And I ask you to forgive us. We are imperfect and we made a mistake. And so please take that for what it's worth. But it's true that over the years we've treated people with mental health issues quite differently. But it's interesting to me at how Jesus really approached us. And if we're Christians, if you're a Christian today, the goal is to become more like Christ. And one of the things Christ did was, and the Bible says it this way, while we were yet sinners, Christ came and died for us. And what that means is this, is that I didn't have it all figured out and that I wasn't all put together when Christ died for me. He died for me while I was broken. Now, if we're going to follow that pattern, then shouldn't we love all of the broken people equally and not separate some who may struggle differently than we do and treat them differently? Listen, mental illness is not something that you catch. We shouldn't treat people that way, especially as Christians. And here's the thing that's fascinating. That kind of treatment has come at a great price. In fact, I would say this. I would argue that the church should be on the forefront of the mental health fight. Because we actually have hope. Right? The world doesn't have lasting hope. We have guaranteed lasting hope. I want you guys to look at this slide. We're going to look at this. This is from NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. And this is just some statistics that I want you to be aware of. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness. 1 in 5. There's roughly 170-ish people in the room this morning. 1 in 5 of you have mental health issues. 1 in 5. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience serious mental illness. 17% of youth between the ages of 6 and 17 years old experience a mental health disorder. Wow. And here's a breakdown of the different types. 19% are some form of anxiety disorder, and we're going to talk about anxiety today. 3% are bipolar, 1% borderline personality disorder, 8% depression, 1% OCD. If you talk to my team, they'll tell you I'm a little OCD when it comes to cabling. Ask any of them. Like, It's just true, and I'm not, so there you go. Apparently, I have a mental illness too. You ask my team, they probably would agree. That is not encouraging and supportive. 4% have post-traumatic stress disorder. This one is a big one with COVID, PTSD. Anxiety is actually on the increase because of COVID. 4% have a dual diagnosis, and 1% have schizophrenia. 21% of adults have some form of mental health issues. And then you got a breakdown of the different ethnicities and how that plays out. But I want to point out a specific number because I want you to see how grossly high the percentage is. There's a massive jump. Listen, see this? You can't see this because I'm standing in the way. So 22% of white adults, 32% of adults who report mixed or most multiracial, 44%, it's almost half, 44% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults have mental health issues. Now, I'm going to get real with you guys for just a minute. This is our fault. Oh, I got quiet up in here. This is our fault. That is so much higher than the rest. 32% is insane. So let me just help you. These are all based on ethnicity. This added percentage has to do with perception. Multiracial, gay, lesbian, and bisexual. Could it be possible that the church has created anxiety and mental health issues in groups of people because how we've treated groups of people? I'm just asking the question. Listen, I ain't telling you the church has got to be perfect, because listen, this place was fine till I walked in. I'm not perfect. I don't want you to think that I'm coming down on the church, but I can assure you of this one thing. These groups of people will always be welcome in this building with us. Always. You don't have to agree with me, but I assure you of this, I will defend them to the death. Because guess who Jesus defended and died for? Broken people. Broken people. We're all broken. So number one, we're all broken. I mean, we all like the idea of the church being a shelter for the hurting until the hurting walk in. Oh, you smell like you just left the bar. Well, I did. Funny how quick we jump to judgment without ever knowing the story. Maybe that guy's drinking because he lost his kid. Maybe that guy's drinking because he's going through a divorce, and maybe he just needs somebody to put their arm around him and remind him that he matters and he's loved. I hope y'all ain't getting mad at me. I really do want y'all to come back next week. See, the church should be a place where anxious thoughts are challenged with truth. And people are embraced in whatever condition they come in. And mental health is no different. It's no different, but there's a stigma. There's a stigma that's attached to mental illness. Let's just be real. There's a stigma. There's this, oh no, this is like, oh, I don't really. And let's just be honest, some of us, we don't know how to approach it, right? I don't know how to approach mental illness. In fact, psychologists and psychiatrists, the good ones, will readily admit we're still learning a lot about mental health. We don't have it figured out yet. But that should not cause a stigma to be attached to people. It should not. And here's why. Because when you attach a stigma, you force people into shame, and that forces them into the shadows. And in the shadows, there is no light. Now remember what I said about the church. The church should be a place where truth challenges the different things that a mental illness brings to light. There's no room for shadows in the church. There's no room for shadows in the church. Well, that's great, Keith. What do? It's really simple. We become people of grace. We make grace the goal. No matter what we do, we always make grace the goal. Now, here's how it goes. As people, we give grace, right? If I don't struggle with mental health and I encounter someone that does, guess what I do? I give them grace. Now, if you have mental health issues, I'm going to ask, too, that you also give grace to those that don't, because we're trying to figure this out, too. And so it's a two-way street. I promise you this, people that do or do not have mental health issues that make grace the goal will have a relationship that is sustainable beyond any offense. And so, if we live our lives making grace the goal, what's going to happen if I have a mental health issue and Chaz does something that's offensive to me and grace is the goal, I'm going to see the best I possibly can in Chaz's actions, even though it may have hurt me. But also, Chaz is going to readily acknowledge that his actions caused harm to his brother or sister, and he's going to take ownership of those actions and give an apology. Grace is a two-way street, and it's the only street that allows us to pass each other without colliding. Relationships, listen, I think what the problem is with mental health is the church makes, relationship with Jesus about behaviors. But the thing about relationship with Jesus is it's never really been about behaviors. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can just go do what you want to do and call yourself a follower of Jesus. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Jesus saves you and you become something to a family. You belong before you behave. But I think the church has gotten really good at saying you need to behave in order to belong. And if you have a mental health issue, your behavior's suspect, and so you can't belong yet. But what we really need to do is put our arms out wide and say, hey, you're welcome here. You can belong, and we'll work on the behaviors. Now listen, this is not easy. This is hard. This is really hard. But what's amazing is our relationship with Jesus has never been jeopardized by our ability to get it right. You ever thought about that? Isn't that awesome news? Because if the pressure to get it right is on me, I'm in trouble. I am in big. That wasn't awkward. My wife was like, only one in the building laughing. Ouch, man. Apparently I'm really messed up, y'all. Oh, man. Whew, y'all pray for me. I'm going to be in trouble when I get home. Y'all crack me up. I love my wife, y'all. I leveled up when I married her. That ain't no joke. But I'm thankful. I'm thankful that my ability to get it right doesn't jeopardize my relationship with Jesus. I'm really thankful for that. Do you know the Bible says this in Romans? It says, it's fantastic that you can renew your minds. The Bible actually says that we can renew our minds. And a lot of mental illness takes place in the mind. And so that's really good news, and here's why. Because if faith is not about fixed behaviors, then renewing our mind becomes a process. And if renewing our mind becomes a process, we don't cheapen our glorious salvation to just being a good Christian that does the right things. We should not cheapen the death of our Savior to the degree that we just make it about being a good little Christian. We shouldn't do that. For one, we create a faulty image. We create an image that says we have it all together. And then you got a person that is struggling with mental health issues looking at you who they perceive you to have it all together. Now, you know, but they don't. And so they're looking out from the outside going, man, I wish I could be like that. And then suddenly this comparison game creates more anxiety and more depression because that person's got their life together, but I don't have my life together. And if I'm never going to get my life together, then what am I even doing here? When am I going to earn my degree? When am I going to do this? When am I going to get married? When am I going to have kids? Oh, I bet I'm going to be sick. And next thing you know, you're in a downward spiral. And so maybe we shouldn't cheapen our glorious salvation to just getting it right. Maybe we should really just be authentic people that don't put on masks when we walk in a church. Now, I want to give you guys some practical helps. Those of you that struggle with mental health and anxiety specifically, I want to give you some practical tips that have helped me. Some things I've learned that I think come straight out of the Bible, and I'm going to show them to you. And psychology eventually caught up to what the Bible already said. It'll always be that way. Okay? All right, here we go. You ready? You got to shift your thoughts. Say it with me. Shift my thoughts. Okay, we're going to try that one more time. Because y'all get really excited when somebody's making fun of me, but you're quiet when I need you to get in. Come on now. Listen. Shift your thoughts. Oh, that's good. Y'all sound good. Y'all sound good. All right, so here's the thing. To win the battle against anxious thoughts, we must shift our thoughts. It's called reframing, if you want the official language. We have to reframe what's happening in our heads about our thoughts. And so let me read you this, Philippians 4:8. This is what Philippians 4:8. Paul, I love Paul. Paul wrote this letter in prison. Finally, brothers and sisters, listen. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. One of the problems with anxiety is it takes you down a rabbit hole of lies. That's the reality of it. And when you start having one anxious thought, if you can grab and take captive that one, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be able to control the spiral. But once it starts, it's a whole lot harder to control. So what do you do when the first anxious thought hits your head? You shift your thoughts. Where do you shift them from? You shift them from what you're thinking, and you shift them to what is true. And I think it's very important how Paul structured this. You've got to start with truth. You got to start there because fantasy is not going to help your anxiety. Fantasy is going to actually elevate it. And so if you start with truth, if you start with what is true, you will be in a much better position to shift your thoughts. We do a really great job of destroying the value of human beings when we don't shift our thoughts about them. Here's what I mean. As humans, I'm talking to the church, as humans, we were created in the image of God. Nothing else in creation was created like that. It is distinct, different, and privileged. It is nothing like the animal kingdom. It is nothing like the universe. And as beautiful as there are some animals are beautiful. Those little flying squirrels, I think they're amazing. Right? The sun outside, man, you go outside, the sun hits your skin and it warms you up. Anybody else like that feeling when you go outside and it's warm and then you go inside and you get the chills? Like, I love that feeling. I know it's weird, but I like that feeling. The universe is beautiful. The animal kingdom is beautiful, but not nearly as beautiful as you. And so the truth I want you to start with is this, that God created me and I am beautiful. God created me, and I am beautiful. I might be broken, but I'm beautiful. Because I still have the mark of the Creator on my life. You got to start with truth. I have to remind myself of this. But see, what anxiety does is it gets you stuck on the assumptions and the potentials and the what-ifs instead of truth. Well, you assume that God doesn't love you because you have mental health issues. No, God does love you. That's truth. You assume that the church cannot be a safe haven for you, and that might be from experience, but not all churches are created the same. See, this is fascinating. We'll judge one church by another church, but we don't want to be judged by the way the same kind of people. Anyway, I'm going to leave that alone. Y'all won't come back. See, here's the thing, and you should write this down. When our thoughts control our thinking, we are in a downward spiral. But when our thinking controls our thoughts, we gain the upper hand. I'm going to read that again. When our thoughts control our thinking, we are in a downward spiral. But when our thinking control our thoughts, we gain an upper hand. And what that means is when you're able to think about, like Paul says, think about whatever is true. Think about whatever is lovely. Think about what is noble. Anything praiseworthy, think about. And listen, you might have to fight to find one thing, but fight to find the one thing. Think about it and watch how your thoughts change. Now listen, maybe you try this a couple times, you're like, this doesn't work. You get all frustrated. Listen, don't get down on yourself. Keep trying. Be patient. It will work. The Bible does not lie. It does not lie. And this is why knowing truth is so critically important. This is why I want people reading their Bibles. I don't want you to read your Bible because you're a good little Christian. I want you to read your Bible because it can actually change your life. Amen. It's good for you. But this is what anxiety does. And it's fascinating how it works. And this happens in my life some. Listen, I'll tell you now, I get anxious. Y'all should have seen me 6 months ago. I was a wreck. Like, I was a ball of nerves. Get near me and I might bite you. Like, I was just out of control. But this is what happens when it goes down an unhealthy lane. You do something and you mess up. You were on a good track. Everything was going pretty good. And then something triggers anxiety in your life. It could be COVID. It could be sickness. It could be marriage. It could be any number of things, but there's a trigger. It triggers it. And then what happens is anxiety suddenly starts to cause a feeling of fear. Fear starts to rise up. And then guess what happens? Your heart rate increases. And then you start sweating a little bit. And then so your heart's beating really fast. And your heart's beating and your blood pressure's starting to go up. And then suddenly the heart rate, blood pressure, and the sweating means that you have some form of cancer and you're going to die. Listen, for those people that have anxiety, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this might be the one example, but I could give you 1,000 others. And so what happens is anxiety graduates to a critical event. Anxiety graduates to a critical event when we're unable to shift our thoughts. Because if we're able to, at the initial stage of I messed up, instead of just going, oh, I'm just a screw up, my whole life's in shambles, I'm a wreck. Instead of that, if we would grab that thought and say, you know what? You're right, I am a screw-up self. I screwed up. But my God, He loves me just the same. And if you do that and you confront the flawed thought with a true thought, it shifts our thinking. And if we're able to shift our thinking, then our thinking no longer controls our thoughts. Our thoughts are controlled by truth, which will shift and control our thinking. So reframing, what it does is on the early stages of anxiety, it challenges anxiety with truth. Because lies fuel anxiety, not truth. Y'all good? Told you today's going to be a little different. I ain't running all over the stage stomping and screaming. Not yet. What is the truth, though? Let me ask that question. Do you know what the truth is? Do you know what the truth is? That when you were a bigger mess than you currently are, Jesus died for you. That's the truth. That when you didn't have it all together and have it all figured out, Jesus came and he died. And guess what? He knew what you were going to do today. He knew you were going to mess up on that day, and he still decided to die for you, even though you said yes to him years ago, and your intent is to do the right things, but you messed up and you slipped up and you did something that you shouldn't have done. You know what you shouldn't have done, but you still did it. And he still knew that you were going to do that thing, and guess what? He still loved you enough to die for you. Because Jesus doesn't die for completed projects. He dies to complete projects. Okay. We doing all right now. Listen, you're a work in process, right? Anybody in the room got it all together? Because if you do, you're in the wrong room. But what's fascinating to me is that there's another truth that you need to hang on to, because anxiety feels like it's going to last forever. When you're anxious, depressed, or struggling in that way, you feel like it's never going to end, right? It's never, addicts always feel like they're never going to get to the other side of it. But can I promise you this? God has promised to heal you. Now, a lot of people push back on me on this. God has promised to heal you. And when he died on a cross, he guaranteed it. Now, does that mean you're going to be healed today? No. Does that mean you're going to be healed tomorrow? No. But maybe. Does that mean that you may never be healed, that you have to struggle with this for the rest of your life? Possibly. But I can promise you this, it has an end date. And a healing is promised and guaranteed. It's not as forever as it feels. It's not, say it with me, it's not. Now, I want all of you to say it for the people in the room that do struggle with anxiety. Say it with me. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, oh, what's this about? Say it for the people in the room that struggle with anxiety. It's not as forever as it feels. Good. Hey, did you guys know that God actually used medicine in the Bible? Oh, y'all didn't believe me. Listen, Hezekiah, King Hezekiah was mortally ill with a skin disease. He had boils. He cries out to God for healing, right? He says, God, I want to be healed. God hears him, and he says to him, and he actually heals him and extends his life. But his healing came from what was the medicine of the day. You essential oil folks, y'all going to love this. He takes cakes of figs. I don't know if there's a fig essential oil, but somebody ought to get on it. He takes cakes of figs and he applies them to his skin, and God blesses and uses that form of medicine to heal him. But my Lord, you let somebody tell you they're on Zoloft or some other mental health medicine, and oh, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with them. God's choosing to use medicine to help them. Why celebrate the reality that God has given us things that are natural and chemicals that help us live our lives in a different way? Because last time I checked, I don't give anybody a hard time about taking their heart medicine. I mean, we'll go to KFC, eat a 12-bucket piece of chicken, and then we'll take our heart medicine. Ain't nobody fussing about that. Nobody saying anything about that. But we treat people that struggle with mental health issues as if medicine is taboo and bad. And so they come in and they're living in secret. Guess what? You want to say, I guarantee you ain't a preacher ever been this raw with y'all. It's about to carry. My wife got nervous. She don't ever know what I'm going to say. I have to have hormone replacement. Because what do you think I was going to talk about? My Lord. I have to have hormone replacement because my testosterone dropped when I was 30 to about the equivalent of a 12-year-old girl. It did. That's what the doctor said. I'm just telling you what the doctor said. He said, yeah, you're fine except for. Well, thanks, doc. He said some other things that is too much, though. And so I have to have that. I use it every day. Every day. Now, you can choose to look at me different if you want. I don't really, fine. Okay. But the reality is this, is if we can't be who God designed us to be on this side of the planet and accept the fact that medicine is a good gift, we got a real big issue. And we should not treat people that take mental health medicines as if it's taboo, because God was using all sorts of medicinal and other things in the Bible to help heal people. One time he used his spit and mud. No, don't be spitting in anybody's eyes. We are not that church. You know, sometimes it can be a spiritual thing. Sometimes mental health can be a spiritual thing, but mental illness is not. Those are different things. At least I would define them differently. And so, mental health sometimes is spiritual, but most of the time it's not. Most of the time, it's because there's some crossed wires in people's brains or chemical imbalances, and they just need a little help to get that straightened out. Just like some of us need insulin to get our sugar straightened out. Just like some of us need blood pressure medicine so we don't have a massive heart attack and die by getting up and walking from here to that door. Let's not treat people as if there's something wrong with them because they take medicine. All right, I'll get off that one. But can I just talk to the people that really struggle with anxiety or depression or some other form of mental health? I want you to know this, that the Grove Church loves you, and we are committed to doing all we can to help you. Now, we're going to mess up, but we're going to do our best. But I want you to know this more than anything else this morning. Don't be defined by your issues, even though people have defined you by your issues. Mental illness should not define people. I don't walk up to someone and go, "Hi, Chaz, I have low testosterone." "What's up, man? How are you?" You don't do that, right? When's the last time you walked up to someone and was like, "Hey, man, I'm Keith, and I have high blood pressure, and I take insulin," and nobody does that. Because that is not who you are. I am not low testosterone. I am Keith. And if I don't know my identity, I'm going to have problems. And what I want you to leave here knowing, more importantly than anything, your condition is not your identity. Oh, that's good news, somebody. That's really, really good news. Luke 5:12 says, I got to speed up. Luke 5:12 says this. While Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered. I love that. He was covered. Descriptive. Covered, like you can't hide this. Covered with leprosy. When he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and begged him, "Lord, if you're willing, can you make me clean?" Ooh. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I'm willing," he said, "be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. Some of y'all get excited because the leprosy left him, but see, you missed the point. Jesus touched him. The leprosy stays. Does it change how you feel about the verse? Because it shouldn't. The fact is that Jesus touched him. Fully aware of his condition, Jesus was not afraid to have contact with him. Church, we cannot be afraid to have contact with people that have mental health issues simply because they have mental health issues. We got to look beyond their condition. Listen, I need you to look beyond my condition. You need us to look beyond your condition. And we need to look beyond the condition of those that struggle with mental health issues. Because it's not who they are. Their issue is not their identity. Say it with me. My issue is not my identity. My struggle doesn't define me. I am a new creation in Christ. There we go. We're doing better now. Listen. All right, I'm going to speed up. Y'all get ready. Philippians 4:11. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Some of us think the Apostle Paul, when Jesus knocked him off of his donkey and blinded him and all this, all of a sudden he just stood up and he had it all together. But Philippians corrects that thinking. It says, I have learned, and that Greek word literally means to learn from experience. You know what that means? Paul wasn't always content. The Apostle Paul, who heard the voice of Jesus audibly, got knocked off a donkey, was blinded for 3 days, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, had to learn from experience how to be content. Guess what? So do we. And if you struggle with mental illness, so do you. Give yourself room to be a work in progress, a work in process, so that you can learn how to be content with your conditions. I love y'all. Y'all good? Are we okay? I don't know who said it, but thank you. Wherever you are, thank you. I think what bothers me most is we've gotten really, really good and effective at communicating what is expected, but not providing a place for people to learn and progress. I think we've gotten really good at saying this is what you should do and this is who you should be, but you can't mess up here. We got to provide environments that allow people to slip up and fall so that they don't fall too far. The church, listen, the church is a place for broken people. And there's all sorts of being broken. Mental health is just one of them. Just one of them. So, worship team, y'all come on. Sometimes you just turn your notes off. I'm going to introduce you guys either next week or the week after to what I call my box. Seriously, don't miss that message. I don't know if it's next week or the following yet. Everything in me is pushing back against what I'm about to ask you to do, but I'm just going to kind of trust and Jesus, I just need your help. I wonder if there's anybody in the room that struggles with depression or anxiety or obsessive compulsive disorder or PTSD or some other form of mental health issue. There's a lot of them. Can I confess? I get anxious every Sunday morning. Some of y'all, I met you as you walked in the door, but what you don't realize is I walk outside to see if people are coming in. Every Sunday morning I get anxious about whether people are going to show up or not. When I say anxious, I get all kinds of nerve. My stomach starts to hurt. My mind starts to race. Now out there what you see is, hey, happy Keith, woohoo! But on the inside, man, I'm tore up. Every single Sunday. Now, I'm not telling you that because I want you to feel sorry for me. I don't. That's not the point. I'm telling you that because I think there's power in confession. And if you're anxious, this is going to make you more anxious. I just need to listen to Jesus here as best I can. If you struggle or have struggled with mental health issues, throw your hand up in there right now. I want y'all to look around. Look around this room. That's about a quarter of us. You are not alone. You're not alone. And in this house, We call it a home. And in a home, you can be you. You can put your feet on the couch. You can leave cups on the counter. Please flush the toilet. I want you to hear what I'm telling you. There is hope. There's hope. And we love you, and I'm proud of you. Because right when you raised your hands, you know what you did? You defeated the anxiety of being judged. And Paul said, I've learned to be content. And what you just learned is that an experience as simple as throwing up your hand and saying, yeah, I've struggled, can teach you that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not have it all figured out and have it all together. And I want you to know that no matter how high the hill or how low the valley, our shepherd, he is good. And so we're going to sing a new song today. You can sit, you can stand, you can kneel, you can cry, you can dance, you can shout. I don't care. But do this. Connect with the shepherd, because he wants to connect with you no matter where you're at in this journey. And then I'll come up at the end and share a few more thoughts with you. I love you guys. I'm so thankful for all of you, and I'm most proud of every person that raised their hand. Let's sing.
Oh, how far retrace my steps through all my failure and walk me out the other side. Who could dare ascend a mountain, a valleyed hill called Calvary, before the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. I will praise you on the mountain. I will praise you in the mountains and my way. Lord, the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows. No less faithful when the night leads me astray. Lord, the heaven where my heart. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Whatever I walk through, whatever I am, your name can move mountains. Wherever I stand, whenever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. Whatever I walk through, whatever I am, your name can move mountains. Wherever I stand, if I ever walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. From the greatest of all valleys come the pastures we call grace, a mighty river flowing upwards from a deep, empty grave. I will praise you on the mountain. I will praise you in the mountains and my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows. No less faithful when the night leads me astray. 'Cause you're my heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same.
Jesus, you're good. You're good. And we're grateful that even in the shadows, you are no less faithful. Even when a mountain is in our way, you are still faithful. So we are grateful. Lord, I love you and I thank you for everyone here today. In Jesus' name. Hey, a couple quick things. I'm going to cut you guys loose. If you're here this morning, you got a connection card. Listen, if you haven't surrendered your life to Jesus, I want to encourage you to. He has the best for you. And so we would love for you to do that. You can fill out that card, and at the top it says, I'm surrendering my life to Christ, or recommitting. We would love to just help you take your next step. Speaking of next steps, we have Growth Track starting today. Growth Track is an opportunity for you to come learn more about the Grove, learn more about you, and live your life in a way that makes a difference. And so that's immediately after this service. It's going to be in the room that's to the left of the big lobby when you walk in. We'll have some people there. All it is you don't have to sign up. You just walk in there and show up. It'll last roughly 30 minutes, and we'll get you guys out here. We'd love to get you connected. Great way for you to get connected here at the Grove and hear a little bit more about us. God bless you guys. Thank you for worshiping with us. If you'd like to support us in giving, there's some buckets at the door. You can also drop your cards off there. God bless you guys. What an amazing Sunday, yeah? Hey, we'll see you next week, part 2 of Winning the War in Your Thoughts. God bless you.
Hey guys, Pastor Keith here. I just wanted to hop on and say thank you for tuning in.
I hope that today's message encouraged you and blessed you. If you want to find out more about the Grove Church, go to bethegrove.com. You can submit prayer requests, you can support this ministry there, and we would love to get connected and hope to meet you soon.